What you are about to hear is not casual, not symbolic, and not meant for later. January 14th stands as a marked moment, a point on the timeline where heaven did not whisper, but signal. In less than a minute, something shifted. The detail matters. The speed matters. Because when a change is triggered this fast, it is not formed by human planning. It is released by divine command. Archangel Michael does not move slowly when a boundary is being crossed. He signals when something is activated, when protection is reassigned, when a cycle is cut, and when movement replaces delay. And this signal is not floating somewhere far away. It is connected to something near your home. That is why this message is finding you now, and that is why it must be opened immediately to be understood. January 14th is not just a date on a calendar. It is a spiritual intersection. Some dates carry memory, others carry instruction, but this one carries activation. When heaven compresses a change into less than a minute, it means the preparation already happened in silence. You were not informed during the waiting season. You were not alerted while things felt ordinary. But suddenly, without warning, a signal was released. And signals are different from signs. Signs are meant to be noticed over time. Signals are meant to be received instantly. They are alerts. They are commands. They are the moment when the unseen becomes unavoidable. Archangel Michael's involvement tells us something critical. Michael is not sent for decoration. He is not assigned to gentle transitions. When Michael signals, it is because something requires enforcement, protection, and divine authority. This is about territory. This is about boundaries. This is about something that was approaching your space without permission, or something that was meant to arrive but needed clearance. And that is why the location matters. Near your home is not poetic language. It is literal. Homes are not just buildings. They are spiritual zones. They hold covenant, memory, lineage, and assignment. What happens near your home often determines what happens next in your life. Many people miss divine shifts because they expect them to feel dramatic on the outside. But the most powerful changes often begin quietly, quickly, and locally. In less than a minute, a conversation may have happened in the spiritual realm that altered the direction of weeks, months, or even years ahead. You may not have felt it physically. You may not have seen it immediately. But the signal was sent. And when a signal is sent, something responds. Something moves. Something stops. Something is reassigned. This is why urgency surrounds this message. Not fear, but timing. When heaven says open now, it is because delay creates distortion. Understanding anchors you. Awareness protects you. Ignorance leaves you vulnerable. There is a reason your attention is being pulled here. There is a reason the phrase something near your home is stirring curiosity, even discomfort. Because your spirit already recognizes that proximity equals relevance. This is not about a distant event. This is about your environment, your surroundings, your daily path, the places you consider normal. Archangel Michael signaling a change means the decision has already been made. Heaven does not debate when Michael moves. It executes. That is why this is not a warning of what might happen, but a revelation of what has already been triggered. The question is not whether the change exists. The question is whether you will align with it consciously or encounter it unexpectedly. And alignment always begins with understanding. There are moments when God speaks softly, and there are moments when He signals sharply. January 14th falls into the second category. Something crossed a threshold. Something shifted lanes. Something that was circling was either blocked or released. And because it is connected to your home, it affects your peace, your protection, your provision, or your next step. Homes are gateways. What is allowed near them matters more than people realize. This message is not meant to create anxiety. It is meant to restore awareness. When you understand what is happening, fear loses its grip. Confusion dissolves. You stop reacting blindly and start standing intentionally. That is why this message begins with context and urgency. Not hype, not mystery for entertainment, but clarity for positioning. If you are listening and feel a sense of seriousness that is appropriate, if you feel drawn but cannot fully explain why, that is confirmation. This is not random discovery. This is divine timing intersecting with your attention. And the reason this is unfolding now is because what comes next depends on what you recognize now. January 14th has already passed in the natural, but its impact is still unfolding in the spiritual. Signals do not expire quickly. They initiate processes. And once initiated, those processes move whether you are ready or not. But when you are informed, you move with them instead of being moved by them. This is only the beginning. What you are about to understand will bring clarity to things that have felt unsettled, repetitive, or strangely quiet around you. And as this unfolds, you will begin to see why the location near your home was mentioned first. Before outcomes, before instructions, before explanations. Because proximity reveals priority. And now that the context has been set, the next layer must be revealed carefully. Because not every signal is understood the same way, and not every change is meant to be interpreted with the same lens. Now we move from context into comprehension, because a signal without understanding can be misread, and misreading leads to resistance. The signal sent on January 14th was not emotional, symbolic, or abstract. It was precise. When the message says Archangel Michael signals a change, it is revealing a specific kind of heavenly communication. A signal is not the same as a sign. A sign invites observation. A signal demands response. Is the difference between something meant to be noticed and something meant to be acted upon. And Michael does not send signals casually. In the spiritual realm, signals are used when timing is critical. They are released when a transition has already been authorized and movement must follow immediately. That is why the phrase "in less than a minute" is not grammatic language. It is instructional. It tells you that this change bypassed a long process. It skipped negotiation. It moved faster than human reasoning could track. And when that happens, confusion often follows, not because something is wrong, but because the mind is trying to catch up to what the spirit already sensed. Archangel Michael's role here matters deeply. He is a guardian of thresholds. He is dispatched when boundaries are crossed, when territory must be secured, when something is either entering or being blocked. His signal means that a line was drawn or redrawn. Something was either permitted to advance or commanded to stop. And because this is connected to something near your home, the signal was territorial. It was about space, influence, and authority. Homes are where spiritual permissions operate most quietly. What is allowed near them determines what has access to you. Many people assume spiritual signals come with visible spectacle, but often they arrive as subtle disruptions. A sudden feeling of unease, an unexpected interruption, a strange sense that something is shifting even though nothing obvious has changed. That is how signals register on the human side. They disturb patterns. They interrupt comfort. They draw attention without explanation. And the danger is not in the signal itself. It is in ignoring it because it doesn't fit expectations. This is why understanding matters now. When a signal is released, it activates responders. Some respond to align. Others respond to resist. Some move to protect. Others move to distract. And awareness determines which side you stand on. This message is not here to overwhelm you. It is here to position you. When heaven signals, alignment is protection. You may be wondering why this is being revealed through a message instead of an event. Because not all changes announce themselves physically first. Many are decided spiritually before they manifest naturally. And the ones who are informed early are the ones who walk through them with peace instead of panic. That is why you are hearing this now. Not to scare you, but to steady you. If this message is resonating, it is because something in you recognizes the authority behind it. You did not stumble here by accident. This is not passive listening. This is participation. And participation matters. So take a moment right now. Engage with this message. Let others know this is happening. Share this with someone who needs awareness, not fear. And if this aligns with you, stay connected. Subscribe so you don't miss what is unfolding next, because understanding builds layer by layer, and what comes later will make what you're hearing now even clearer. Signals are often misunderstood because people expect them to explain themselves. But signals are not explanations, they are alerts. They tell you to look closer, to pay attention, to prepare for movement. And this signal was sent with intention. The wording is exact. January 14th. Less than a minute. Archangel Michael. A change trigger. Something near your home. Each piece is deliberate. Nothing is filler. Nothing is accidental. The reason this feels intense is because it is precise. Precision carries weight. And weight demands response. Not frantic response, but conscious alignment. When Michael signals, it means protection is active. It means authority hath been exercised. It means something hath been settled whether you were watching or not. And now the invitation is to understand what that settlement means for you. Some will dismiss this as coincidence. Others will feel the gravity immediately. The difference is not intelligence, it is sensitivity. Spiritual sensitivity is not about seeing visions. It is about recognizing timing. And this timing is deliberate. Something has shifted in your environment, and ignoring it does not make it disappear. Understanding it gives you stability. As we move forward, the layers will become clearer. The signal will make more sense. A connection to your home will sharpen. And the reason this needed to be opened now will reveal itself. But for now, let this settle. Not with fear, but with awareness. Because awareness is the first form of protection. And remember this. Signals are sent to those who are meant to respond. If you are hearing this, you are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to understand what comes next. Now we arrive at the most misunderstood detail of this entire message, the phrase "in less than a minute." Many hear that and assume it is symbolic, a figure of speech meant to create urgency. But spiritually, time compression is never poetic. It is prophetic. When heaven moves in less than a minute, it means the outcome did not require prolonged resistance, extended negotiation, or gradual persuasion. It means the authority behind the action was final. And that kind of speed only appears when something that has lingered too long is no longer permitted to remain. Throughout scripture and spiritual history, the greatest shifts often happen suddenly. Not because God was impulsive, but because preparation had already taken place in silence. Years of unseen alignment can culminate in a moment so brief that the human mind struggles to register it. That is what happened here. January 14th was not the beginning of the process. It was a release point, a trigger moment, a second when what had been forming quietly crossed into activation. A 1-minute window is not about duration. It is about decisiveness. It tells us there was no hesitation in heaven, no uncertainty, no delay. Something reached its limit. Either an obstruction had expired, or an assignment reached maturity. And when that threshold was crossed, the response was immediate. This is why some of you have felt a strange emotional or mental shift without a clear reason. A heaviness lifting, a tension surfacing, a sense that something is about to move even though nothing visible has changed yet. When a change is triggered this quickly, it often bypasses the intellect and registers first in the spirit. That is why understanding sometimes lags behind experience. You may feel unsettled, alert, or unusually watchful. Not anxious, but aware. That awareness is not random. It is your inner recognition, responding to a shift that already occurred. And the reason this message matters is because unrecognized shifts can feel like confusion, while recognized shifts feel like preparation. The 1-minute trigger also reveals something else. This change did not require your effort to initiate. It was not waiting on your perfection, your readiness, or your full understanding. It was authorized independently of your awareness. But your response now determines how smoothly you move within it. Sudden change does not mean chaotic change. When heaven moves quickly, it is because order is being restored, not disrupted. This is where many people make a mistake. They assume sudden spiritual movement means something bad is coming. But speed does not equal danger. Speed often equals rescue. It can mean protection arriving just in time. It can mean removal before harm. It can mean provision unlocked before lack becomes visible. And because this change is connected to something near your home, the speed may have prevented something you were never meant to face, or accelerated something you were meant to receive. Homes, spiritually, are centers of authority. What happens near them affects what happens within them. When a 1-minute trigger involves your environment, it means the margin for delay was gone. Waiting longer would have allowed interference. So the signal was sent, the change was activated, and the movement began. Quietly, precisely, efficiently. If you are trying to pinpoint the exact second it happened, you may never find it on a clock. Because spiritual triggers do not always align with human awareness. But you will recognize the aftermath. Patterns breaking, conversations shifting, delays dissolving, or even exposure, things becoming clearer than they were before. That clarity is not accidental. It is a result of the trigger doing its work. What matters now is not trying to control what has already been set in motion. What matters is staying aware, staying receptive, staying grounded. This is not a time to panic or overanalyze every detail near your home. It is a time to observe with calm authority, to notice without fear, to trust that what was triggered was not released against you, but for you. And here is the crucial truth. Moments like this are rarely explained all at once. Understanding comes in layers. That is why this message is unfolding step by step. If you feel a pull to keep listening, that is not curiosity, it is alignment. Something in you knows this matters. And you will be glad you stayed with this, because what comes next changes how you interpret everything that has already happened. Before we move forward, this moment needs to be sealed. Type "I am aligned with divine timing" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 318 is now activated. As this sudden shift settles into your spirit, hear this clearly. Light only spreads when someone carries it forward. I feel led to speak directly to those whose hearts are burning right now. This message is reaching souls because obedience is being funded. When you sow into this work through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are placing oil into a lamp that God is using to awaken others before their moment passes. The Lord is saying, as you release into my work, I will release clarity and protection over your house. This is not a donation. It is a prophetic response to what you just received. I invite you, yes, you, to act now. Use the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on screen and step into this flow. I speak harvest, covering, and divine speed over every seed sown. Do it now. Now we address the phrase that has been quietly unsettling many listeners, something near your home. This is not symbolic language meant to sound mysterious. It is precise, intentional, and deeply spiritual. Location matters in ways most people underestimate. In the spiritual realm, geography carries assignment. Space holds memory. Proximity determines influence. And when heaven highlights an area near your home, it is because what happens there has a direct line to what unfolds in your life. Your home is more than where you sleep. It is a center of authority. It is where your spirit rests, where decisions are formed, where peace is either guarded or disrupted. Spiritually speaking, your home functions like a gate. What is allowed near it often determines what can access you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. That is why this message does not say something in your life or something around the world. It says something near your home, because nearness is not neutral. Many people assume danger or threat when location is mentioned, but that assumption limits understanding. What is near your home could be something being removed just as much as something being introduced. It could be an influence that has lingered unnoticed. It could be a connection that is about to be severed, or it could be an assignment that has finally reached the point of activation. The key is not fear, it is discernment. Spiritual geography operates quietly. It does not announce itself with noise. It blends into routine. Familiar streets, daily paths, ordinary surroundings. That is why it is often overlooked. But heaven sees what humans normalize. And when Archangel Michael signals a change tied to a location, it means that location has crossed into relevance. Something there matters now in a way it did not before. You may already sense this without realizing it. Perhaps you have felt drawn to or uneasy about a particular place nearby. A building, a route, a neighboring space, or even a subtle shift in the atmosphere around where you live. These sensations are not imagination. They are awareness catching up to reality. And awareness is being sharpened now because the change has already been triggered. It is important to understand this clearly. Not every spiritual shift is global. Some are intensely personal and local. Heaven often works closest to home because that is where impact is most immediate. When something changes near your home, it affects your peace first, your clarity, your sense of direction. And that is why this message is not distant prophecy. It is practical revelation. There is also a reason this detail was revealed before instruction. Understanding location before action prevents panic. You are not being told to investigate, confront, or interfere. You are being told to become aware. Awareness is not intrusion. It is alignment. When you are aware, you move differently. You pray differently. You choose differently. And those subtle shifts are often enough to stay in step with what heaven is doing. Another reason location matters is because spiritual transitions often involve boundaries. What is allowed near your home may have been permitted for a season but no longer has access. Or something that was blocked may now be cleared to move closer. Either way, the boundary has shifted. And when boundaries shift, the environment feels different. Sometimes lighter, sometimes more exposed, sometimes more still. Stillness can be a sign of recalibration, not absence. Do not rush to label what this is. Labels limit perception. Instead, observe. Notice patterns. Pay attention to what changes without forcing interpretation. This is not a call to over-spiritualize your surroundings. It is an invitation to recognize that your environment is part of your spiritual journey. What happens near you is not random when heaven is involved. Many people wait for clarity before they feel peace. But in moments like this, peace often comes before clarity. That peace is a signal itself. It tells you that what hath been triggered is under authority, that protection is active, that you are not exposed, even if things feel unfamiliar. And unfamiliar does not mean unsafe. It is also worth noting that homes carry generational significance. What happens near your home can affect more than just you. It can influence those connected to you, those who enter your space, and those who share your covering. That is why heaven is precise about location. Precision protects more than one life at a time. As this part settles, resist the urge to jump ahead mentally. You do not need all the answers at once. You need presence, calm awareness. Trust that what is unfolding has been measured, authorized, and guided. Archangel Michael does not signal changes that leave people exposed. His involvement confirms structure, not chaos. This message is unfolding intentionally. Each layer builds on the last. And now that you understand why location matters, the next revelation will make even more sense. Because once you know where something is connected, you can begin to understand why it matters and what role you play within it. Now we move into what has been hidden beneath the surface, the connection you were not told about. Every major shift carries an unseen thread, something linking timing, location, and purpose in a way that only becomes visible after activation. The thread exists here, and it is not accidental that it remained concealed until now. Some connections are not revealed early because knowing them too soon would interfere with the outcome. Silence is sometimes protection. A hidden connection is not dramatic on the outside. In fact, that is why it is powerful. It blends into normal life. It wears familiarity as a disguise. It exists in routines, repeated patterns, overlooked details, and spaces you pass without thought. And yet, spiritually, it has been active for longer than you realize. The reason it surfaced now is because the season that required concealment has ended. What many people do not understand is that spiritual connections do not always announce themselves as spiritual. They often appear practical, coincidental, or irrelevant. That is intentional. When something is meant to mature without interference, it grows quietly. Attention too early can distort it. Opposition too soon can delay it. So heaven waits, and when the time is right, the connection is revealed, not before. January 14th marked the end of concealment for this connection. The trigger release did not create it, it exposed it. That is an important distinction. This means the connection was already there, operating in the background of your life, influencing timing, shaping circumstances, holding space. And now that the change has been triggered, what was hidden no longer needs to remain hidden. This is why some of you are experiencing clarity without explanation. Pieces that did not make sense before are starting to align. Thoughts you dismissed are returning with weight. Situations you ignored are resurfacing in a new light. That is not coincidence. That is recognition. The mind is catching up to what the spirit already knows. The danger is not in the connection itself. The danger is in misunderstanding it. When people discover hidden connections, they often rush to assign blame or credit. But this is not about fault. It is about function. Everything that was allowed to exist near you served a purpose for a time. Some things protected. Some things taught. Some things delayed for reasons that are now expiring. And expiration is not failure. It is fulfillment. You were not meant to see this connection earlier because you would have tried to control it. Control blocks flow. Understanding releases it. And now that the trigger hath been pulled, control is no longer required. Awareness is. This is why this message is unfolding slowly and deliberately. It is not here to expose for shock. It is here to reveal for alignment. Hidden connections often involve people, places, or patterns that felt insignificant. That is why they are missed. The enemy of discernment is familiarity. When something becomes normal, it stops being questioned. But heaven questions what humans normalize. And when the time comes, heaven interrupts normal with revelation. This does not mean you must confront or remove anything forcefully. Force action often creates unnecessary resistance. Instead, let understanding do the work. When you see clearly, your responses change naturally. You stop feeding what no longer serves. You stop engaging what has completed its role. You stop fearing what was only temporary. There is also a reason this connection involves proximity. Distance weakens influence. Nearness amplifies it. What is near your home had access because it was close, not because it was powerful. And now that the boundary has shifted, that access is changing. Access can be reduced, redirected, or evoked without trauma. Authority does not need noise. Some of you may feel a sense of relief as this becomes clear. Others may feel a brief discomfort as old assumptions fall away. Both reactions are normal. Revelation always disrupts illusion. But disruption is not destruction. It is correction. And correction leads to stability. The most important thing to understand here is this. The hidden connection does not define your future. It explains your past. And explanation brings closure. Once you understand why something was present, you stop carrying unnecessary questions forward. You stop wondering what you did wrong. You stop assuming delay meant denial. Instead, you recognize process. As this settles, resist the urge to revisit old emotions tied to this connection. That season has already shifted. The trigger confirmed it. What remains now is integration, allowing understanding to bring peace rather than reopening wounds. You are not being asked to relive anything. You are being invited to release it with clarity. This is the turning point where confusion gives way to insight, where mystery becomes meaning, and where what was hidden no longer holds power over you because it has been named internally, even if not spoken aloud. The next part will take this understanding further by revealing who was involved in enforcing this shift and why resistance often appears just before freedom. Because when hidden connections are exposed, something always responds. Now we must understand why Archangel Michael is central to this moment, because his involvement explains not only the change itself, but the resistance that often surrounds moments like this. Michael does not appear in seasons of comfort. He is assigned to thresholds, places where one state ends and another begins. When he is involved, it means a line hath been drawn, enforced, and guarded. And that tells us something important. This change was not optional. It required authority. Archangel Michael's role in spiritual movement is enforcement, not persuasion. He does not negotiate with delay. He does not ask permission from opposition. He executes what has already been decided, That is why when Michael signals, things happen quickly. Resistance does not get time to organize. Interference is cut short, and what has been lingering beyond its season is removed or restrained. This is why the change on January 14th did not unfold slowly. Speed was part of the protection. Many people misunderstand resistance when it appears around spiritual shifts. They assume resistance means something is wrong. In reality, resistance often confirms that something is right. When authority moves, anything that benefited from disorder reacts. That reaction can show up as confusion, distraction, emotional heaviness, or even sudden challenges that feel out of place. But these are not signs of failure. They are signs of enforcement in progress. Michael's presence means the shift required strength, not gentleness. It means something was being guarded, defended, or reclaimed. And because this is connected to something near your home, the resistance may have felt personal. Not dramatic, but subtle. Irritations, interruptions, a sense of pushback without a clear source. These are common indicators that a boundary is being reinforced. It is important to say this clearly. Resistance does not mean you are under attack. It means you are under protection. When Michael is involved, protection is not passive. It is active. It anticipates interference and neutralizes it before it escalates. That is why some things may have stopped suddenly without explanation. Conversations that went nowhere. Plans that dissolve. Influences that lost momentum. That is not loss. That is containment. Another reason Michael's role matters is because he governs transitions that involve responsibility. When something changes under his watch, it often comes with a new level of accountability. Not burden, but authority. You may notice that you are becoming more discerning without trying. Less tolerant of what drains you. More aware of what disrupts your peace. That is not you becoming rigid. That is you becoming aligned with a new boundary. Michael's enforcement also explains why the shift may feel final. There is a sense of closure around it. A feeling that something cannot go back to how it was. That is because enforcement locks doors as well as opens them. And when a door is closed under authority, reopening it requires disobedience. This is not meant to threaten. It is meant to free you from second-guessing. Many people delay their own progress by revisiting what has already been settled. But when Michael signals, revisiting becomes unnecessary. The decision has been made. The territory has been secured. And your role is not to fight, but to recognize and align. Alignment removes friction. Resistance fades when you stop trying to re-enter expired spaces. You may also notice a shift in how you perceive conflict. Things that once triggered strong reactions may now feel distant. Not because you are detached, but because authority creates calm. When you know something is handled, you stop striving. That calm is not apathy. It is confidence. This part of the message is important because it reframes what you may have misunderstood as struggle. What felt like pressure may have been protection working behind the scenes. What felt like delay may have been containment. And what felt like sudden change is actually the result of long-term enforcement finally reaching completion. Michael's involvement also signals that this change was not only about you. It was about maintaining order in a wider scope. Sometimes heaven acts to protect others by repositioning one person. Sometimes a shift near your home prevents something from affecting others connected to you. And because you may never see what was prevented, gratitude replaces explanation. As this settles, release the need to analyze resistance. Do not give it more attention than it deserves. Enforcement works best when it is not questioned. Trust that what has been handled is handled fully. Your job now is to walk forward without dragging old assumptions with you. The next layer will reveal something even more grounding: how to recognize that the change has already begun manifesting, even if it is subtle. Because enforcement is not theoretical. It produces results. Now we must address a truth that changes how you interpret everything you have felt so far. The change is not approaching. It has already begun. Many people wait for visible proof before they accept that something has shifted. But spiritual movement often manifests subtly before it becomes obvious. And because this change was triggered swiftly and enforced with authority, its earliest signs are quiet, not dramatic. One of the clearest indicators that a change is already in motion is a shift in momentum. Things that once felt stuck may now feel neutral instead of heavy. Not resolved yet, but no longer draining. That neutrality is not emptiness. It is space being cleared. When something exits, it does not always leave noise behind. Sometimes it leaves room. And room is where new movement begins. Another sign is altered reaction. Situations that used to provoke anxiety, frustration, or urgency may now feel distant. You notice them, but they do not grip you the same way. This is not numbness. It is detachment caused by authority. When enforcement has taken place, emotional hooks lose their hold. You may still care, but you are no longer entangled. That is a result of the change already working. You may also notice timing shifts. Delays that once felt endless may suddenly resolve quickly, or stop mattering altogether. Doors that seemed permanently closed may not have opened yet, but the pressure to force them is gone. That release of pressure is not resignation. It is alignment. When you stop pushing, it often means something else has taken over. Changes that are already in motion often announce themselves through stillness. A calm pause, a sense that nothing needs to be decided right now. Stillness is not stagnation when heaven is involved. It is recalibration. It is the moment when the environment adjusts to a new order. And during recalibration, impatience is the only real risk. Some people misinterpret this phase and try to recreate urgency. They feel the quiet and assume something is wrong. But the quiet is confirmation. It means enforcement has settled. It means resistance had been addressed. It means the atmosphere is stabilizing. And stabilization always comes before visible growth. Another indicator is clarity without explanation. You may subtly know what not to do, even if you are not yet sure what to do next. That no is just as important as a yes. When a change is active, clarity often comes in boundaries first. Direction follows after. This protects you from moving too early or re-entering what has already expired. Pay attention also to how your environment responds to you. People may interact with you differently without knowing why. Some may pull back. Others may seek your presence more intentionally. This is not manipulation. It is alignment. When your internal position shifts, external dynamics adjust automatically. It is important to understand that active change does not always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels grounding. Stable. Always ordinary. That is because true shifts are sustainable, not sensational. They are designed to last, not impress. And lasting change often arrives quietly so it can root deeply. If you are waiting for a dramatic sign to validate what has happened, you may miss the evidence already present. Evidence looks like peace returning where there was tension, confidence replacing overthinking, focus returning without effort. These are not minor improvements. They are indicators that something fundamental has realigned. Another sign that the change is active is decreased tolerance for what drains you. This may show up as fatigue when engaging in old patterns, conversations, or environments. Not because you are weak, but because those things no longer match your internal state. Your energy is adjusting to a new rhythm, and anything out of sync feels heavier than before. This phase also invites patience, not passive waiting, but active trust. Trust that what has been triggered will unfold at the right pace. Trust that you do not need to chase confirmation. Trust that clarity will arrive when it is useful, not when it is demanded. You may feel an urge to explain this change to others. Resist that for now. Some shifts are meant to be integrated before they are articulated. Explanation too early can dilute understanding. Let the change settle internally before you try to give it language. Above all, do not fear subtlety. Subtle does not mean insignificant. Subtle means precise. The most accurate movements require the least noise. And this change was not released to disrupt your life. It was released to stabilize it. As you move forward, keep observing without forcing meaning. Stay present. Stay grounded. The fact that you are aware now means you are aligned. And alignment is the safest place to be when something new is forming. The next part will bring this awareness into sharper focus by showing you how to respond without rushing, and how to avoid the one mistake that can delay the benefits of an already active change. Now we must address something deeply personal and impossible to ignore. Why this message found you. Out of countless voices, countless moments, and endless distractions, this is what reached your attention. Not by accident, not by curiosity alone, and not because you were searching for answers. This message arrived because you were ready to receive awareness without distortion. That readiness is rare. In the spiritual realm, revelation is never random. Information is released according to capacity, not popularity. Many people are surrounded by truth, but cannot perceive it because they are not positioned to carry it calmly. This message did not come to you because you are more spiritual than others. It came because you are able to listen without panic, seriousness without fear, and awareness without rushing to conclusions. That balance matters. You may have noticed that while listening, something within you stayed steady, alert but not anxious, curious but not overwhelmed. That internal posture is the clearest confirmation that this message was meant for you. When something important arrives and your spirit does not recoil, it means you are aligned with the timing of it. Fear indicates misalignment. Calm attention indicates preparation. Another reason this message found you is because you are connected to the unfolding outcome. Not as a cause, but as a witness with influence. Witnesses carry responsibility, not to intervene, but to remain aware. Awareness changes how you move, how you speak, how you respond. And response shapes outcomes more than reaction ever could. You may wonder why others around you seem untouched or uninterested by this kind of message. That is not a failure on their part. It is simply not their role in this moment. Not everyone needs early awareness. Some are meant to experience change directly. Others are meant to understand it before it becomes visible. You fall into the second group. That does not make you better. It makes you steadier. Divine targeting is often quiet. It does not announce itself with grandeur because grandeur attracts ego. Quiet attracts humility. And humility is the safest place for understanding to land. If this message feels serious but not heavy, important but not intimidating, that is intentional. It is designed to integrate, not overwhelm. There is also a protective layer here. Being informed reduces shock. Shock leads to reaction. Reaction often creates unnecessary complications. Awareness allows you to respond thoughtfully when something near your environment shifts. You are less likely to misinterpret changes, less likely to assume the worst, and more likely to remain grounded. That groundedness is a form of protection. Another sign this message was meant for you is that it feels relevant without being specific. It resonates without exposing details prematurely. That tells you something important. You do not need full explanation to be aligned. Alignment comes first. Clarity follows. Many people demand clarity before they trust. You are being shown that trust opens the door for clarity instead. As this message unfolds, you may notice a growing sense of responsibility, not pressure, but awareness. Responsibility in this context does not mean action. It means stewardship of understanding. You are being entrusted with insight because you can hold it without spreading fear, without dramatizing it, and without rushing outcomes. That restraint is strength. You may also notice that this awareness is changing how you observe your surroundings. Not with suspicion, but with attentiveness. That attentiveness is not meant to make you hypervigilant. It is meant to keep you present. Presence allows you to notice subtle shifts without assigning meaning too quickly. And that patience protects you from missteps. This message did not arrive to make you feel important. It arrived to make you informed. Information handled correctly produces peace. Information handled poorly produces anxiety. The fact that peace is increasing as understanding grows tells you everything you need to know about why this reached you. If at any point you wondered whether this was meant for you, the answer is already evident in how you are receiving it. Messages not meant for you create resistance. Messages meant for you create recognition. And recognition does not shout, it settles. There is also timing involved. You are hearing this at a moment when rushing would be harmful and delay would be unnecessary. This is a narrow window where awareness is more valuable than action. And you are positioned exactly where you need to be to receive that awareness without trying to control outcomes. Do not underestimate the significance of being alerted rather than surprise. Surprise often destabilizes. Awareness stabilizes. This message is stabilizing you for what unfolds next, and that stabilization will matter more than you realize. You are not expected to explain this to anyone. You are not expected to act immediately. You are expected to remain present, calm, and observant. That is all, and that is enough. You'll be glad you stayed for what's about to be revealed, because the next part brings instruction, not urgency, but clarity on how to move forward without interfering with what is already working. Type "I receive divine awareness" in the comments if this resonates with you. Lesson code 642 is now activated. As this awareness settles deeply within you, I need to speak to those who feel the quiet responsibility of carrying light. This message continues reaching the right hearts because some choose to become vessels, not observers. When you give through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are sowing clarity into lives that may never hear this warning in time. The Lord is saying, as you release into my work, I will establish peace within your dwelling. This is not a delay moment. It is a prophetic response moment. I am calling you to act now. Use the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on screen and release your seed. I declare protection, provision, and divine order over every giver. Do it now in obedience. Now we arrive at the most delicate and easily misunderstood phase of this entire message. What you must do immediately after this revelation. Not what you must change outwardly, not what you must fix, and not what you must force, but how you must position yourself internally. This is where many people unintentionally disrupt divine flow, not through rebellion, but through impatience disguised as responsibility. When a change has already been triggered, signaled, and enforced, action is no longer about initiation. The shift is already active. What remains is alignment. Alignment is quieter than action, but far more powerful. It is the posture that allows what has begun to complete its work without resistance. The first thing you must understand is this: urgency does not always mean movement. In fact, after revelation, urgency often means restraint. The temptation is to immediately adjust routines, confront situations, reevaluate relationships, or make decisive moves just in case. But premature movement can interfere with processes that are still settling into order. Heaven does not rush completion once enforcement is in place. It allows stability to form. One of the most common mistakes after receiving insight is overcorrection. Overcorrection happens when awareness turns into anxiety. You begin scanning everything near you for meaning. You revisit old decisions. You mentally replay past moments, wondering if you missed something. This does not produce clarity. It produces noise. And noise makes it harder to discern what is actually changing versus what is simply familiar fear resurfacing. What you must do now is guard your internal environment. Pay close attention to what influences your thoughts. Conversations that invite speculation, fear, or unnecessary urgency should be limited. Not avoided out of fear, but postponed out of wisdom. You are not required to explain this revelation to anyone. Explanation too early often weakens discernment. Another important instruction is this: do not chase confirmation. When people chase signs, they often miss patterns. Confirmation comes through consistency, not coincidence. Watch what begins to repeat. Watch what quietly fades. Watch what no longer holds your attention. These are indicators of alignment forming. You do not need to force separation. Withdrawal will happen naturally. Immediately after revelation, patience becomes protection. Not passive patience, but observant patience. This is the kind of patience that notices shifts without trying to manage them. It is the patience that allows clarity to arrive on time, not early. Early clarity can mislead just as much as delayed clarity can frustrate. You may feel an internal urge to do something so you don't waste the moment. That urge is understandable, but it must be examined. Is it coming from peace or from pressure? Peace invites waiting. Pressure demands movement. Learn to tell the difference. Alignment feels grounded, not frantic. This is also the phase where silence becomes wisdom. Seeds grow best underground. Exposure before rooting can stunt growth. If you speak too much about what you are sensing, you invite opinions that may not be aligned with timing. Not everyone can hold revelation without distorting it. Choose carefully what you share and with whom. At the same time, do not isolate yourself emotionally. Isolation breeds imbalance. Stay connected to calm environments. Engage in activities that stabilize you. Routine can be grounding when change is active. You are not being asked to disrupt your life. You are being asked to remain present within it. There is also something important about engagement right now. If this message has brought you clarity, awareness, or peace, acknowledge it. Engagement is not about promotion. It is about anchoring. When you like, comment, or share, you are marking a moment of alignment. That acknowledgement strengthens understanding and keeps awareness active. Stay connected as this message continues to unfold. Subscribe so you remain aligned with what is revealed next. Not because you need more information, but because continuity matters. Fragmented insight leads to misinterpretation. Sequence protects understanding. Here is the retention truth you need to hear now. What comes next will challenge your assumptions about action and waiting. It will show you why restraint right now is not delay, but wisdom. And you will be glad you did not rush ahead of what is about to be revealed. Another key instruction is to be patient with yourself. You may feel moments of uncertainty as old mental frameworks dissolve. That uncertainty is not regression. It is transition. Transition feels empty before it feels clear. Do not label that emptiness as loss. It is space being created. If something near your home shifts, whether physically, relationally, or atmospherically, resist the urge to immediately interpret it. Single moments can mislead. Patterns reveal truth. Give things time to repeat before assigning meaning. Above all, remember this: obedience after revelation is often invisible. It looks like calm. It looks like restraint. It looks like trusting enforcement to complete what it started. This kind of obedience is powerful because it does not interfere. Do not force movement. Do not retreat in fear. Do not rush for control. Stay aligned. Stay observant. Stay grounded. The next part will reveal the outcome that alignment produces, and why patience now protects far more than you realize. Now we step into a phase that almost everyone misunderstands: the test before the confirmation. This test is subtle, quiet, and internal. It does not look like a challenge in the traditional sense. There may be no obvious obstacle, no dramatic opposition, no clear event that announces itself as a test. And that is exactly why many fail to recognize it. The test before confirmation is not about what happens around you. It is about what happens within you. After a change has been triggered and alignment has begun, there is often a pause. Not a delay, but a still space. This space is intentional. It is where stability forms. It is where trust is measured. Many assume that confirmation should arrive quickly once awareness increases. But confirmation is not rushed, because rushing would reveal dependence on reassurance rather than trust in authority. This test often appears as silence. Things stop moving outwardly. Answers do not arrive immediately. External affirmation feels absent. And in that silence, the question arises quietly: do you trust what has already been set in motion, even if nothing new is happening yet? That is the test. Not endurance, not effort, but trust without stimulation. Another way this test shows up is through temptation to revisit what has already been settled. Old thoughts resurface. Familiar doubts whisper. You may feel drawn to recheck decisions, replay conversations, or seek reassurance from people who cannot provide it. This is not because something is wrong. It is because old patterns are looking for relevance in a new order. The test before confirmation asks you to remain steady when there is nothing to respond to. No crisis to fix. No instruction to follow. No movement to chase. Just presence. Many people struggle here because they associate faith with action. But in this phase, faith is expressed through restraint. There may also be a sense of emotional neutrality that feels unfamiliar. Not joy, not sadness, just calm. Some misinterpret this calm as disconnection or loss of passion. It is neither. It is stabilization. When emotional extremes settle, clarity can form without distortion. This calm is not emptiness. It is balance. Another layer of this test involves discretion. You may feel the urge to speak prematurely, to explain what you sense, to announce conclusions, to label outcomes. But confirmation has not yet arrived, and naming things too early can lock you into interpretations that are not fully formed. Wisdom in this phase looks like listening more than speaking. The test before confirmation also measures patience with timing. Not patience as tolerance, but patience as trust. Trust that confirmation will arrive when it adds value, not when it satisfies curiosity. Early confirmation often creates dependence. Delayed confirmation builds confidence. You may notice that distractions increase slightly during this phase. Not dramatic distractions, but subtle ones. Busy thoughts, minor irritations, unnecessary worries. These distractions are not attacks. They are invitations to disengage from stillness. And stillness is exactly where confirmation is prepared. Another common experience during this test is the desire to do something just to feel productive. Productivity can become a coping mechanism when waiting feels uncomfortable. But this phase is not about productivity. It is about integration. Integration cannot be rushed. It happens quietly, internally, and over time. You might also experience moments where you question whether you imagined the significance of what you received earlier. This questioning is not failure. It is part of the test. The question is not whether doubt appears, but whether you act on it. Acting on doubt leads to interference. Observing doubt without feeding it allows it to pass. This is also why silence is important here. Silence is not absence. It is containment. It holds the process together until confirmation can arrive intact. Breaking silence too early can release energy that was meant to be concentrated. The confirmation that follows this test is not always what people expect. It may not arrive as a dramatic event. It may come as clarity, as peace, as a door opening naturally without force, or as a quiet knowing that replaces the need for explanation. That kind of confirmation lasts. What you are being tested on now is not your ability to wait, but your ability to remain aligned without reassurance. That is a deeper level of trust, and trust like that creates stability that cannot be shaken easily. If you feel like nothing is happening right now, that may be the clearest sign that everything is happening exactly as it should. The absence of noise often means alignment is holding. Movement will resume when it is useful, not before. Do not confuse stillness with stagnation. Stagnation feels heavy. Stillness feels grounded. Pay attention to the difference. Grounded stillness is preparation. As this phase continues, remind yourself that confirmation is not earned by anxiety. It is received through trust. You do not need to pass the test perfectly. You only need to remain present and refrain from interference. The next part will reveal what confirmation produces once it arrives, and how the outcome affects more than just you. Because this shift was never meant to end with awareness alone. And now we come to the outcome, what unfolds when you respond correctly to everything that has been revealed so far. Not with force, not with fear, not with impatience, but with alignment. This is where many expect fireworks, but what actually appears is something far more powerful: order. When divine order is restored, it does not always announce itself loudly. It stabilizes first, and stability is the foundation of lasting change. The first outcome of correct response is peace that does not depend on circumstances, not emotional excitement, not temporary relief, but a grounded sense that things are held. That peace arrives because enforcement has already done its work and alignment has allowed it to settle. You are no longer bracing for impact. You are no longer scanning for danger. Your nervous system begins to rest. And when the inner world rests, the outer world starts to rearrange naturally. Another outcome is clarity without pressure. Decisions that once felt complicated begin to feel obvious. Not because all options disappear, but because discernment sharpens. You stop debating internally. You know what to engage and what to ignore. That clarity is not loud. It does not argue for attention. It simply stands firm. And firm clarity saves enormous energy. Correct response also produces protection. Not dramatic protection that draws attention, but quiet covering. Things that could have escalated do not. Situations that might have drained you lose momentum. You may never know what was prevented, and that is intentional. Protection often works best when it is invisible. Awareness allows you to cooperate with it rather than question it. Another important outcome is repositioning. Not relocation necessarily, but internal repositioning. Your priorities shift. What once felt urgent may now feel optional. What once felt optional may now feel essential. This is not confusion. It is recalibration. When recalibration happens, life begins to flow differently without requiring force. You may also notice that certain opportunities begin to surface naturally. Not right, not first, and not chased. They appear with ease. That ease is a sign of alignment. When things arrive without resistance, it means timing and position are matching. You are no longer pushing against currents that were never meant to carry you. Correct response also affects relationships. Some connections deepen effortlessly. Others fade without conflict. This is not loss, it is sorting. Alignment always sorts. It does not punish. It simply places things where they belong. When sorting happens under divine order, it feels clean, not chaotic. Another outcome is increased sensitivity to peace. You become less tolerant of environments, conversations, or habits that disrupt your internal stability. This is not rigidity. It is refinement. Refinement protects what has been stabilized. And once stability is established, you instinctively guard it. You may also notice that fear loses its persuasive power. It may still appear as a thought, but it does not command action. You observe it without obeying it. That is maturity. Fear thrives on urgency. Alignment neutralizes urgency. And without urgency, fear has nothing to feed on. There is also a broader impact that many overlook. Your correct response affects more than just you. When one person stabilizes under divine order, it creates a pocket of peace around them. Others may feel calmer in your presence without knowing why. Environments adjust. Conversations soften. This is not influence through effort. It is influence through alignment. Another outcome is confidence without arrogance. You do not need to announce what you know. You do not need to defend your position. You move quietly, decisively, and without apology. That kind of confidence is rooted in trust, not control. You may also find that your intuition becomes clearer. Not louder, but more accurate. You sense when to wait and when to move. You recognize timing more easily. This is not because you have more information, but because interference has been reduced. Clarity thrives in low-noise environments. It is important to understand that correct response does not eliminate all challenges. It changes how challenges interact with you. They no longer define your emotional state. They become manageable, contextual, and temporary. That shift alone transforms how life feels. As outcomes begin to appear, resist the urge to analyze them excessively. Analysis can reintroduce doubt. Let outcomes speak for themselves. Notice patterns, not isolated moments. Patterns confirm alignment far more reliably than single events. You may also experience gratitude emerging naturally. Not forced gratitude, but quiet appreciation. Gratitude is often the sign that resistance has dissolved. When you are no longer fighting the process, appreciation rises without effort. This is the fruit of correct response: peace, clarity, protection, positioning, and quiet confidence. None of these need to be announced. They are lived. And now, as everything begins to settle into its rightful place, the final part will bring this entire message to completion. Not with warning, but with assurance. Not with urgency, but with upliftment. Because what began as a signal was always meant to end in stability. The final closing of this entire prophetic message, and now everything that was revealed comes to rest in assurance, not uncertainty. What began as an alert was never meant to leave you anxious. What began as a signal was never meant to keep you questioning. From the very beginning, this was about alignment, protection, and divine order being restored quietly but decisively. January 14th was not a moment of chaos. It was a moment of correction. And correction, when released from heaven, always ends in peace. As you reflect on everything that has unfolded across this message, notice how clarity replaced confusion layer by layer. Nothing demanded fear. Nothing put you into panic. Nothing required forceful action. Instead, understanding came first, then awareness, then calm alignment. That sequence alone confirms the nature of this shift. Heaven does not rush people into anxiety. Heaven stabilizes before it advances. Archangel Michael's involvement was not to alarm you, but to secure you. His signal marked the enforcement of boundaries, the closing of expired access, and the protection of territory connected to your life. What was near your home, what was influencing your space, what had proximity to your peace, has already been addressed under authority. And when authority intervenes, it does not leave disorder behind. It establishes order. This is why you may now feel a deep sense of calm that does not depend on circumstances. Not excitement, not emotional highs, but a steady grounding. That grounding is confirmation. It means what needed to be handled had been handled. You are not standing at the edge of something unstable. You are standing within something secured. This final part is not about warning you of what could go wrong. It is about reminding you of what is already right. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not exposed. You are not missing anything essential. Everything necessary for this transition has already been set in place. Now is the time to release the need to keep reviewing the past. Understanding was given so you could let go, not so you could remain vigilant forever. Vigilance has a season, and that season has served its purpose. What follows now is trust. Trust that what was triggered will continue unfolding without your constant monitoring. Trust that alignment will keep you in step even when you are not thinking about it. As you move forward, life may begin to feel simpler in subtle ways. Decisions may require less internal debate. Situations that once drained you may no longer command your energy. You may feel less compelled to explain yourself, defend your position, or justify your pace. That is not withdrawal. That is confidence rooted in peace. Remember this clearly. Divine protection does not always feel dramatic. Often, it feels like quiet normalcy returning. Like rest. Like breathing easier without knowing why. That is the evidence many overlook. But it is real. If moments of doubt try to return, meet them with what you now know. A signal was sent. A change was triggered. Authority was involved. Enforcement took place. Alignment followed. Outcomes are forming. That sequence does not unravel. It completes. You are not required to understand every step ahead. You are only required to walk with calm awareness where you are. The path will reveal itself as you move, not before. And it will do so without pressure. Carry this assurance with you. Nothing has been released against you. Everything that shifted did so for your protection, your positioning, and your peace. You were covered before you were aware. You were guarded before you understood. And you remain held now as things settle into their rightful place. Let peace be your confirmation. Let clarity be your compass. Let patience be your strength. You are not waiting for something to begin. You are allowing something important to complete. Now, as this message closes, receive this final sealing with confidence and faith. Type "I walk in divine peace" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 915 is now activated. As this message comes to rest in your spirit, I speak directly to those who feel the quiet certainty of alignment. This work continues because some respond when heaven speaks, not later, but now. When you support through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are helping carry this word into homes that are still unaware of what God is doing. The Lord is saying, "Those who establish my message will dwell in established peace." This is not a suggestion. It is a prophetic moment of obedience. I am calling you to act now. Use the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on screen and release your support. I declare protection, overflow, and divine covering over every giver. Do it now.